Asian markets were mixed on Wednesday as an earlier rally had the wind taken out of it after Pakistan said it had shot down 2 Indian jets in its airspace in Kashmir, fueling concerns of conflict between the nuclear-armed rivals. Regional investors had been in a broadly upbeat mood owing to optimism about that China-US trade deal, a dovish outlook on monetary policy from the US Federal Reserve boss Jerome Powell, and easing Brexit worries. Markets in the Far East are fractionally upbeat, with Tokyo's Nikkei rising 0.5% to 21,556 points. The Hang Seng edged lower to close out trade at 28,758 points, while the Shanghai Composite moved 0.4% to the good to 2,953 points. Wall Street's 3 major indexes fell slightly after a choppy session on Tuesday as investors eyed mixed economic data and corporate news, and many stayed on the sidelines waiting for clarity on issues such as US-China trade talks. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was 0.1% lower at 26,057 points by close, while the S&P 500 gave up a similar mark to end at 2,793 points. The Nasdaq Composite was also just marginally down, ending at 7,549 points. Let's go to the Johannesburg Stock Exchange now. Arabile Gumede is standing by. Welcome back, Arabile. What's happening in the markets this afternoon?
Yeah, well, those markets, as you certainly said, have been a little topsy-turvy out in the United States, seeing quite a bit of red territory there. Only marginally, of course, yes, while out in Asia, you saw a little bit of green. So it's hard to really tell where the market will go thus far. And it's sitting pretty much flat as of this afternoon as well here locally. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what shapes the market as we continue with the rest of the day. The likes of Nepi Rockcastle, however, have been hit around 3% and more today as well. So that real estate will indeed be one to look out for. The rest of the market in itself a little bit more subdued, and perhaps one would have questioned exactly what's happening out there. But let's get in touch with those European numbers, which aren't necessarily looking that great, and we'll unpack exactly what's happening with those markets in a bit. Well, as you can tell there, the rand has certainly begun to claw back some of that territory, now going firmly below that 14 rand mark. So a bit of a positive sense out of that. But even though the all share is in positive territory, it is only just. Michael Traherne, Portfolio Manager at Vestac Asset Management, joining us to unpack this market picture a little bit more. Undecided as to what it is actually that makes this market move right now. It's pretty much flat. Where would you say the direction is going to come from, if anywhere at all?
Yeah, I think a lot of the direction is going to be more external from South Africa than actual South African politics at the moment. Big driving force is Trump's summit in Vietnam. That's obviously part of what the world's watching. And then what's happening with Brexit in Europe. Those are the 2 key things happening at the moment. And then focusing specifically on the US, Jerome Powell talking before Congress. Today will be his second day. Unpacking basically where the US Fed is at the moment, what his feeling is around interest rates and where that's going in the future. His general sentiment coming through, though, is interest rates lower for longer, and that's part of the reason why you've seen a strong rand that's on dollar weakness. People selling the dollar because they're not expecting interest rates to rise anytime soon.
The United States, rather, last night, edging marginally lower. Asia this morning going up also just marginally. South Africa pretty much flat, but Europe going down heavily. Do you know what we can attest that to, maybe?
Yeah, I think a big focus on at the moment is definitely Brexit negotiations. Depending on what happens there, that definitely has a ripple effect throughout Europe. But I think in general, slight up, slight down, that's just the market doing its thing. And I mean, if you have a look at what the US markets did yesterday, they were up for some of the day, they're down for some of the day, and then just closing slightly lower. So it's at the moment, markets are generally in a wait-and-see mode. Particularly around what happens with US trade talks and North Korea, not to be forgotten.
ShopRite is up 1%. Do you make anything? Do you think the market is making anything of the fact that Christo Visser is looking to unwind some of his control from the company in that share structure of his that awfully looks very weird if you were to look at it?
Yes, I mean, if you go back to the beginning of when ShopRite was listed, Christo Visser needed to raise money, but he didn't want to give up control of the company. So the way you do that is you list different classes of shares. One class is what they call super voting rights, and another class has got ordinary voting rights. And he's obviously got what they call super voting rights, and it means he controls just over 30% of the company, which effectively means he controls what's happening there. I'm not 100% sure of the reasoning behind it. The company says they want to adopt best practice. I think there's probably more to the story than that, which will come out in the media later. But adopting best practice is always good for shareholders. It means that all the shareholders get a vote instead of just one shareholder, and I think the market's pricing that in.
Do you think they're turning another corner and going in a different direction now? They've just done away with YT Basona. I mean, not really done away, but he's decided to step aside. Christo Visser, another one of the old guard to perhaps leave. Yes, Peter Engelbrecht is still part of the old guard in a sense, but this is sort of a new leadership, shall we say. Do you think that they are trying to turn the corner and go in a different direction now?
I think it's just a new phase of the business. Having YT, who was there from store number one, to leave, that obviously leaves a big hole. New CEO comes in, they're introducing a new IT system, so those things are new. Then you look at the rest of Africa operations, and that's got nothing to do with leadership, but structurally things have changed in the rest of Africa, so it's definitely a different ShopRite today than it was a year ago. It'll be interesting to see how things go forward, but for now things look exciting, and yeah, I'd definitely say a new chapter going forward.
What do you make then of the market hitting that 56,000 point mark as well yesterday on the local front? That was perhaps a key level, or do you think it's just another mark and we'll hopefully see the market go a little higher?
Yeah, I think based on the fact that we've been gyrating around these the 56,000 mark, I think it's less significant. It's when the market fails to break these levels that they become more significant. Overall, though, weaker rand over the last couple of weeks, it contributes to it. Some of our biggest players are dual listed, so weaker rand means that those stocks are worth more. When those stocks are worth more, it pushes up the index. But I think from now until the elections in May, the main focus will be what is happening with the elections, and then I think once we've got elections that have settled down, hopefully we see a leg up in the markets.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Well, if we talk about the greater Naspers story, then we have to talk about MultiChoice. They're officially listed on the JSE today. That a little bit of an unbundling or the split from Naspers. What do you make of that share? What do you think is going to happen for it? Is it going to perhaps give the kind of value you would have wanted just for MultiChoice? And what does that mean for Naspers?
Yeah, so Naspers effectively saying we're going to give this company to our shareholders. It's 40 billion rands worth of value that they're giving to shareholders. Naspers doesn't get anything out of this, but it's part of unlocking value for shareholders. As you look at it now, Naspers still trades on a very big discount to at some of the parts. If you have a look at what each individual business is worth, it's worth worth more than the current share price, and this is one way that management is trying to address that problem. For shareholders going forward, MultiChoice is currently worth 40 billion rand. Yeah. Some people saying it should be worth about 80. No doubt there's going to be volatility in the stock price over the next probably couple of weeks as shareholders try to figure out what it's worth. There's been no official value put on it. It's all up to the market and market dynamics, particularly for something worth 40 billion. Doesn't unwind in a couple of hours. So expect volatility in the stock for the next couple of weeks.
Quite an interesting one there actually as well. We'll continue to check on it and see exactly how that stock does. Michael Traherne, Portfolio Manager at Vestact Asset Management. Yep, taking a look at that rand as well. As we said, a sense of positivity coming through there at around 13 rand 86 or so against the US dollar. So really doing well on that front. But how much more positivity can come in through that exchange? We'll continue to unpack the market, of course, and see how things are faring. That is your market wrap for now, and that's where the buck stops. From me, and Zinga joins you right after this.